Howdy, I'm Chandler O'Quinn, and the sun is riz, the sun is set, and I am still in Texas yet. Welcome to Chandler's Travels. This episode, we're taking a look at the Texas Panhandle. I'm in the old town of Mobeetie, once known as Sweetwater, Texas. We'll take a look at some of the Wild West stories that took place here. Hope you'll enjoy it. So behind me is the former county jail. It is the only structure that is still around from the wicked days of Mobeetie, Texas. At one point, Charles Goodnight did pretty much say that it was the most wretched hive of scum and villainy. At least I think that was Charles Goodnight. I'll have to double check on that one. Believe it or not, this has been a lifelong dream of mine to come right here to old Sweetwater, Texas. As you may have figured out by now, and people who know me well, I love Westerns, I love the Wild West, and my favorite true life Wild West figure is Bat Masterson. Bat Masterson combines all of the elements that you want in one of these Wild West figures and puts it into this nicely dressed, gentlemanly package. While other cowboys would go out there rootin' and tootin' and shooting it up, Bat Masterson was a gentleman, always dressed in the nicest things, wearing a derby hat, very soft-spoken, was much prefer clubbing you in the head with his cane than shooting you or stabbing you in the back or something. He was a lawman, but often danced on that line of what was legal and what was not, as so many did back then. So when I already like Bat Masterson from all the stories that I'd heard around Dodge City and his friendship with Wyatt Earp. But when I then discovered later on in life that Texas had a large part to do with the story of Bat Masterson, it has been a dream of mine to come and see the places in Texas that Bat Masterson did. So that meant that I needed to come here to Old Sweetwater, because this is the site, kind of, we'll get to that in a moment, of the Sweetwater, Texas shootout. This is the reason why Bat Masterson had that infamous cane. He would walk around with a limp for the rest of his life because of what happened pretty much right here. So, for those of you who are not so nerdy on Wild West things, Bat Masterson. He was born William Bartholomew Masterson up in Quebec, 1853, I believe. His family moves to New York, then moves to Kansas and settles just outside of Wichita. And the farm life was not one for Mr. Masterson. He wanted more adventure in his life. He wanted to change things up, one of those things being his name. He did not like the name Bartholomew. He wanted to be William Barclay Masterson. That's how he would introduce himself. But he also got the name Bat. Lots of different stories as to how he came upon that name, but some point in the 1870s, 1860s, 70s, he becomes known as Bat Masterson. Already, by the time of 20 years old, he has lived quite the life. Up in Kansas, he is a buffalo hunter. One of the last ones to look upon the plains of Texas and see it spotted with all of these buffalo. Kansas as well. See it spotted with all these buffalo and go out there and forage for yourself for days on end, just shooting down these magnificent animals, tearing away their hides, processing them out in the prairies, and then bringing them in for lots of money. So that is kind of how Bat Masterson gets introduced to the worlds of Dodge City, and therefore the world of the Texas Panhandle, is as this buffalo hunter figure. So he is involved in the second Battle of Adobe Walls, which, depending on how this all gets edited, will either be coming out before or after this video. But we'll go more into detail as to what he did at Adobe Walls in that video. Then that takes place in the summer of 1874. He goes back to Dodge City. He then is an Army scout during the Red River War, and then comes back to Texas as a freighter. So hauling goods between Dodge City and right here in the Panhandle, right here in what was old Sweetwater. The whole connection between us and Dodge City, that is the closest settlement. That is the closest point of life, is 200 miles away in Kansas. So he is hauling goods between the two. One of the stories says that he actually surveyed Mobeetie, surveyed old Sweetwater here. So the roads that you see around here, these trails that still lead to people's homes, were all surveyed out by Bat Masterson. And talking to one of the guides at the visitor center, she said, and none of the roads seem right to me. So Bat Masterson apparently he wasn't a surveyor, as far as we know. I don't know how he got the job, but that's the story, is that he surveyed these streets that still exist today for a town, though, that does not exist. So how did all this get started? Why is this the place of the Sweetwater Shootout? Why was Bat Masterson here? Why was anybody here? So the buffalo hunts that have been steadily occurring on native lands from the end of the Civil War to 1874 and 5. So we're now about 10 years out from the end of the Civil War. And white hunters are just going into lands and picking off hundreds and thousands of buffalo at a time. You'll see pictures, just mountains of buffalo skulls, and all they really want are the hides, because this is the time of the Industrial Revolution. We don't really have vulcanized rubber to make all of the belts to turn all of the gears of industry, so they use buffalo hides to do it. So just completely eradicating herds of buffalo throughout the plains, and so much so that by 1874 and 5, they are leaving Kansas. The hunters have killed all the native herds there and are moving south into the Panhandle of Texas. This is what causes the whole Red River War, or one of the causes of the Red River War, which we'll talk about more in our Adobe Walls episode. But here, where the creek, the Sweetwater Creek meets Graham Creek, was a great place to hunt for buffalo. So Charles Rath sets up a station here, puts up a couple of sod saloons, some stores. Charlie Norton sets up a dance hall, and Harry Fleming sets up the Lady Gay Saloon. And then they would just hunt for these buffaloes, stake them out, have ants and things kind of help them clean out all the undersides of these hides, and then ship them up to Dodge City. And this became quite a wild place with all of these buffalo hunters and cowboys, and then all the people who have to support the buffalo hunters, the dance hall girls, the soiled doves, entertaining ladies, so and barkeeps, and all of these people coming in to this settlement. So Bat Masterson, working as a freighter, is bringing more supplies to this buffalo hunting camp. He arrives December of 1874. Now, to protect all of the buffalo hunters, the U.S. Army set up a post. So at that time, it was known as Cantonment Sweetwater. Later on, it would become Fort Elliott, which is maybe one of the last forts set up in this line of forts to protect people from the Indians. I mean, the Red River War has already concluded by the time that Fort Elliott is set up in this area. In Fort Elliott, that is where Mackenzie is set up. He is stationed there after the conclusion of the Red River War. And along with him was an orderly named Melvin King. Melvin King was born Charles Thomas up in Quebec as well. Two Quebecois are causing all this trouble here in the Panhandle. If hockey had been invented, the whole thing could have been avoided. So Thomas was born up in Quebec, also moves to New York, but then stays in New York with his family and enlists in the Union Army. He's about, I think, 10 years older, 10 years older than Bat Masterson. Enlists in the Union Army, is involved in some battles in Virginia, gets taken prisoner there, is released, rejoins the Army, and then is part of Reconstruction in Georgia. There, he gets in trouble. He's always getting in trouble for drinking too much and for insubordination. And at one point, he is in, I think, Macon, Georgia, and he is aiming his musket at a dog, and one of the other soldiers gets in his pathway and he shoots the soldier. He nicks him, but still, he gets court-martialed and they acquitted him. The Union Army was desperate for men, and when he sobered up, he was a pretty good soldier. Later on, he's in Mobile, and he actually attacks his commanding officer. He's drummed out of the Army. He then rejoins under a different name, Melvin King, and is then part of Reconstruction here in Texas. He, during the beginning of the Red River War, is escorting people along the border forts. Like McCavitt to San Antonio to all those places along the Rio Grande, and is then taken up into Mackenzie's column and is at Palo Duro Canyon, the really big conclusion of the Red River War, and stays with Mackenzie to come here and is stationed at Cantonment Sweetwater. So we have Melvin King, who is a corporal in the U.S. Army at Cantonment Sweetwater, Bat Masterson as a freighter bringing things into this buffalo camp. What ties those two together, we'll get to at the next station. So we have Melvin King, we have Bat Masterson. What's the beef with these two guys? Well, as it often happens, it was a woman, Molly Brennan. Now, this is just one of the stories. In any case, any way you slice this story, Molly Brennan is definitely involved. But it's possible that Molly Brennan, who was one of the entertaining ladies here in Old Sweetwater, was sweet on Bat Masterson, and Melvin King was sweet on her, and so you've got the perfect love triangle for a shootout to start. So who was Molly Brennan? Molly Brennan came to Texas in the early 1870s. She was living in Denison, where she was already practicing her vocation, as they would term it back then, a soiled dove. She then moves up to Kansas. She gets married to Mr. Brennan, and then she falls in love with Billy Thompson. As with all these Wild West stories, everyone knows everyone else. So Billy Thompson is Ben Thompson's brother. For anyone who knows anything about Wild West history, that means something. For people who don't, I'm just naming names. But Ben Thompson is one of the other greatest gunfighters from Texas. He was an Englishman who immigrated to Texas. He was involved with Phil Coe, which, depending on how these videos come out, you already know who Phil Coe is, or I will link you to a place where you can find out. Phil Coe was another one of these gunfighters. Ben Thompson, brother Billy Thompson, is in a relationship with Molly Brennan. Billy Thompson gets in trouble in Kansas and has to come down back to Texas. Molly follows him here. Billy Thompson was a faro dealer at the Lady Gay Saloon. Molly Brennan, in addition to her other extracurricular activities, was a dance hall girl at Charlie Norton's dance hall. Another lady who was at that dance hall was Big Nose Kate. Another name that, if you don't know anything about the Wild West, means nothing to you, but Big Nose Kate later becomes Doc Holliday's common law wife. So all of these people know each other and are hanging out at the same places, this being one of those places. So Molly Brennan may or may not be sweet on Bat Masterson. Melvin King may or may not be sweet on Molly Brennan. So what do we know for sure? We'll get to that in another moment. So as with all of these Wild West stories, there are at least 100 different ways that it's told. I'm going to try and weave all these into one coherent tale for you to understand. January 24th, 1875. Bat Masterson has been in town 3 or 4 weeks. Molly Brennan, maybe a little bit longer than that. Melvin King has been stationed over at Cantonment Sweetwater. Again, roughly similar amount of time, maybe a little bit more for Melvin King. January 24th at the Lady Gay Saloon. Bat Masterson, Harry Fleming, I believe, Melvin King, and one other person are playing poker. Bat Masterson is winning. Melvin King is not. He gets very upset that he is losing money to Bat Masterson. Add on top of that, that maybe Bat Masterson is succeeding with Molly Brennan, where Melvin King is not. Now you've got 2 reasons for Melvin King to have a problem with Bat Masterson. Heard another story saying that after losing the money and Melvin King getting upset, Bat Masterson makes him crawl on the floor, getting out of the saloon. I'm not so sure if that's a true story or not. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how much of this is true. But we do know Melvin King leaves after losing money to Bat Masterson. Charlie Norton's dance hall, where Molly Brennan and Big Nose Kate perform, that is closed for the night. So Molly is at the Lady Gay talking with Bat Masterson. They decide to go back to Charlie Norton's place. Charlie Norton, Molly Brennan, Bat Masterson walk over to Norton's dance hall. Melvin King, around midnight, watches them go into the dance hall. As Charlie Norton is lighting a lantern, Bat and Molly are talking. The door has been locked again. So Melvin King pounds on the door. Bat Masterson goes, opens the door. Melvin King already has his gun drawn. Bat Masterson is able to step a few steps away. Molly gets in between the two. Melvin King shoots 2 shots. Bah, bah. The first shot misses Molly, hits Bat Masterson in his left hip, knocks him down to the ground. The second shot hits Molly Brennan straight in the gut. She collapses to the floor. Melvin King takes aim at Bat Masterson. Bat Masterson is able to get up, fire a shot, hits Melvin King. Melvin King collapses to the floor with a mortal wound. He's not dead yet. Well, now you've had about 4 or 5 gunshots. The whole town comes awake. They start going into the Charlie Norton's dance hall. The soldiers are going to take sides with Corporal King. The Buffalo Hunters are going to take sides with Bat Masterson. This has all the recipes to have a full-on brawl, maybe another war, strike out on the Texas plains between the Buffalo Hunters and the soldiers. One of the other stories is that Ben Thompson, remember the English gunfighter? The brother of Billy Thompson is the one who is also in town. He, to protect Bat Masterson from one of these other soldiers firing on him, leaps on top of a faro table with 2 guns drawn. All the soldiers back away. Another story says that that was Billy Thompson. To me, it makes a lot more sense for Billy Thompson, who we know was in town at that time, than it does for Ben Thompson to be the one who does it. But Bat Masterson swears that it was Ben Thompson who leapt on the faro table to protect him. They get somebody to go to the cantonment where all the troops are. The doctor, the surgeon comes in, one of the commanding officers comes in, and they're able to separate everybody out. Molly's already dead. Melvin King is mortally wounded. They take him to the hospital. Bat Masterson, they're sure is going to die right there on the spot. They don't even take him to the hospital. One of the stories, if you're queasy, skip about 30 seconds. One of the stories goes that the doctor had a silk handkerchief and was stuffing Bat Masterson's intestines back inside of him on his left hip. Pretty much thinking that he's going to bleed out right there at the dance hall. Miraculously, Bat Masterson survives. Melvin King dies the next morning. They get Bat Masterson to the cantonment, to the hospital. He recovers there, and then he says goodbye to Texas for a long time. He goes back up to his family's place near Wichita. He heals completely up, and by 1876, he's patrolling the streets of Dodge City with Wyatt Earp. So this is the story, or one of the big stories from this town. You go into the visitor center, they have this big oil painting. They don't want anybody taking pictures of it, but it's a beautiful oil painting of the shootout. Some say it happened at the Lady Gay, some say it happened at Norton's Dance Hall. With all this, we don't know a lot. But we do know Melvin King and Molly Brennan were dead. Bat Masterson was not, and he walked with a limp for the rest of his life. But that's why I wanted to come here. I wanted to come and see the spot where that story took place. And in a way, I did. Because once I got here, they told me that this portion of Mobeetie, this is not where that story took place. It actually took place at the original settlement, Hydetown. That was on private property. But I was talking to the lovely people at the visitor center, and they said, well, we'll get our friend to go take you in his truck. So I got a private tour of Hydetown and the building, which may or may not have been the Lady Gay Saloon, but was definitely there when this shootout took place. So if you are a Wild West nut, I would highly encourage you to come make this trip. This is a wonderful little site that they've got here with the jail, with the other buildings that they've brought in from the surrounding area. The people in the visitor center are very kind and want to talk to you about this history. They're only open Thursday, I think it's Monday, Thursday, Saturday, 1 to 4 p.m. You see the visitor center, you see they give you a key to see all these buildings, and if you talk enough history with them, they might give you a private tour of some of the other places in town. So thank you all so much for watching this episode of Chandler's Travels. I hope that I did a good enough job of clearing this story up, or at least igniting the story, and you could go do further research on it for yourself. one of my favorite stories of Texas history, really. That Masterson was right here, that he may have laid out all of these streets. So I hope that you enjoyed it too. As with all of your favorite YouTube videos, hit the like button, smash the subscribe button, ding the notification bell, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you, and vaya con Dios.